You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites experience each other's fandoms for the very first time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fan Club Podcast. My name is Sarah,
This is Matthew.
and today is episode 42,
Yes.
and we are talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yes, I am glad that you are saying the title for this one because I cannot pronounce his name correctly.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. So I'm just going to say Sean. I'm just going to say Sean, which he goes by Sean in the movie as well.
I will say, I wish I knew more about, ancient Chinese culture and, the history and things of that nature, because I do think that this movie pulled from a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
But I do appreciate that this movie did it kind of explained what it needed to explain, but also it was fantastical enough that you didn't need that prior knowledge.
It explained enough for you to know. In Thor, for example, you kind of need to know Odin, Thor, Loki to have a general, not understanding, but know their whole dynamic.
Maybe that's why I didn't really like the Thors that much, is because there's prior knowledge that you almost need
Yeah.
for them.
But
But this movie, I think what they did pull from
Chinese
culture, the colors, the visuals, the mythology with the dragon and all of that kind of stuff, I thought was really cool.
And the special effects. Oh my god.
And the fighting styles and the architecture with the buildings and things of that nature. This movie was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying it feels a lot like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes, the same Spider-Man Far From Home, not No Way Home. Far From Home. No Way Home?
You always get them mixed up.
Yeah.
The ones with the 3 Spider-Mans?
Yes.
That's No Way Home.
No Way Home. Okay. I am a professional. We've done this for 42 weeks now.
Well, 42 episodes, not
Or
42 weeks.
episodes. So 38 weeks, essentially.
We've basically grown a baby. This is the one that you don't really have prior knowledge going in.
I do not think I have a single Shang-Chi comic.
Yeah. And this was one of those movies, I think a lot of movies within this kind of section, I don't have really any prior knowledge. I mean, I didn't have any prior knowledge on a lot of them, but going into Captain America, Iron Man, I knew even Black Widow, I knew a lot of it.
As long as you had social media, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. These are everything that we're watching now has released from 2021 on.
But I knew that this movie existed because it came out not that long ago.
It came
And
out.
Marvel is just being in the realm of social media. You just kind of hear about all things Marvel. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I love Celebrity Jeopardy, and Simu Liu is on Celebrity Jeopardy. He also recently is Disneyland did or is it Disney World did a thing for the holidays at Epcot where they have different storytellers.
Yeah.
And he did a storytelling thing about I think it was something about Chinese New Year. I'm not exactly sure.
Cool.
I haven't personally been there, but I've seen videos of the presentation.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I think Simu Liu, and I've seen a number of interviews with him, and he seems like a cool dude.
He seems chill.
He seems funny, and he seems like he has a kind heart.
He got lucky in Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah.
He got lucky.
He just seems like a good guy all around, and I was really excited to see what he would do with this role, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised. I loved Awkwafina in this role. I thought she was. I've previously seen her in Crazy Rich Asians, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
But she's very much the comic relief in everything she does.
Yeah.
But it's without being annoying in this movie.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Because I do think she has a chance to have some heartfelt moments as well.
Yeah.
Which was welcome for a comic relief character. So yeah, this movie was released in 2021 and directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. I think that's how it's spelled phonetically, so that's how I'm gonna say it.
So everything that he has done I am pulling it up right now. He might be directing the Kang Dynasty,
Okay.
one of the end of the Phase 6 movies
Okay.
in 2025.
The movie starts with this narration in believe Mandarin because that seems to be the language that they speak. A lot of the characters speak.
Yes.
I I don't speak Chinese. If anyone could guess that, but like a couple of the characters have were speaking Mandarin throughout.
Yes. So, funny thing
If
actually.
there's Mandarin and there's Cantonese, and they're very different
Yeah,
languages.
funny thing actually. So, in elementary school, we our PE class, for some reason, taught us how to count to 1 through 10 in English, Spanish, and Mandarin.
Okay.
When
Do
in
you
elementary school,
remember?
I do not. And I'm not even going to try. I have absolute I remember it, but I don't remember the
I
pronunciations.
will say I really enjoyed that this movie. A lot of the time, American-made movies that take place that within a certain language besides English, they tend to switch to English when it wouldn't necessarily make sense to switch to English.
Yes.
And this movie didn't do that.
Like,
And they relied on the Mandarin for as long as they could,
yes.
which I really appreciated. I think it really immersed you more into the story. And like I remember prior to watching something like Squid Game, I was like really resistant to watching most foreign movies because like I watch most things with subtitles, but like I watching something that's completely not in your language is just a little bit odd. Like
Yeah.
it's just a little bit jarring sometimes when you're not used to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just hard to do. And then we watched Squid Game, which is completely in Korean,
Yeah.
and with like it has an English dubbing, but like you're mostly reading it.
Yes.
And that's kind of like I'm interested now after that in watching more foreign based things.
Yes.
And I think that this movie did a really good job of helping you understand the culture without it being completely inaccessible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. Where, like, even when they're speaking Chinese or Mandarin, um, it sounded fluent. It didn't sound
Well, I imagine they probably got people that spoke it
no,
fluently.
but you know what I mean. Like, there's sometimes like in some other shows, like when someone tries to speak German and it's just they're speaking it phonetically.
Well, what I don't like is when like there'll be like a I can't think of an exact example, but I can think about 100 movies in my brain that are this way, where they'll just be having a random conversation in whatever language they're speaking,
And
and
then
then just switch to English,
yeah,
which doesn't. It's for the audience, but it doesn't make any sense within the
yeah,
context.
but this movie didn't do that. Like
The
they
only
would
time they switched to English was when they were like, because the dad wanted his kids to know English,
yes,
and it made
but also
sense.
Shang-Chi's friend didn't speak Chinese, didn't speak Mandarin.
Yeah,
So it was more where he would be talking to someone and then translate to her. Kind of.
yeah, exactly, and I think that it was a really good way she was I can't remember what they call it, but, like an audience insert, I think is what it's called,
Yeah.
where the Awkwafina's character was almost like the audience insert as far as the language barrier goes,
Yes.
and I really appreciated that um, as the outside person, coming in. I felt like it really helped immerse you into the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, this narration is in Mandarin. I believe it's the aunt that's telling the whole story.
The mom.
The mom.
It was the mom at the beginning talking about how she met their father.
So we learn about the 10 rings and he starts using his power like a lasso.
So he we learned that no one knows for sure how he got the 10 rings originally.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you know?
Um at the beginning of the movie she says something along the lines of he found them in a volcano or he found them in a treasure, no one knows for sure.
Yes, because when we watch these movies, I have to write notes. And
So I'm
and
usually
that whole section is like you had to read the subtitles basically.
yeah.
So I had a hard
What
time absorbing the narration, what it actually was saying.
she says something along the lines of no one knows for sure. He never said the truth about how he found them
And we learned that he's immortal.
because of the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
It's
And
giving him
so
powers.
um
So he's thousands of years old.
I really like this little montage where it kind of goes through history where you see like people in different outfits and
Mm-hmm.
like you can tell that time has passed.
Like he's supposed to be Genghis Khan. He's supposed to be all the big like evil Chinese rulers.
Mhm.
That's him.
So then we go to 1996
Mm-hmm.
and I what was his name? Wenwu? Wen I think his name was Wenwu, the dad.
Yeah.
He goes to the village or the gate to Talo.
Not the get. So he's trying to find Hollow. So
Yes.
he's conquered everything else in the world. He wants to find Hollow for the magic.
And he meets this girl
Or
and
he thinks he finds it, but it's just like it's not an entrance or anything, it's just a lake, like a small
a
waterfall,
little pond.
a little pond in the maze of bamboo.
And he sees this girl just doing her training and all that stuff and they have this beautiful fight sequence.
Mhm.
And you can kind of tell they're starting to like look at each other, like there's some like will they won't they kind of moments. Um
But I mean, that's the thing. A lot of legitimate Chinese martial arts, jujitsu, a lot of those are a dance.
well, I think the scene later between Shang-Chi and the ant was very it reminded me of like a modern dance duet
Yeah.
of
But that's the
like
thing. A lot of fighting back then, like in Chinese culture, was dancing. It wasn't so much to fight like
wasn't
that.
like beating the crap out of each
No, it
other.
was more of like a dance show type thing. It's the same thing in like Hawaiian culture, like a lot of their moves that look like fighting, but it's dancing. Like
Mhm.
you need each other for it. There's a scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender which does get a lot of its show's culture from Chinese history. There's a scene, I think it's in season 3, where it's called the Dance of the Dragons,
Mhm.
where one side is blue fire, the other side is red fire. And the Avatar and Sokka and I don't remember his name, but he was a villain in like the first 2 seasons. If you remember his name, let me know. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they were dance fighting,
Yeah.
like how the dragons moved. But a lot of their fighting is more
I just think that
dancing.
this whole scene is beautiful and the way that they can channel like the wind and like
Or it was her channeling the wind.
yes, I know. I was talking about like her and her sister
Yeah.
can like channel the wind and like the way that they're just so graceful. I am like so not a coordinated nor graceful person and I'm very jealous of people that are. 'Cause we learned that this is Shang-Chi's mom. And so we get this like kind of flash forward to Shang-Chi is probably about what would you say 5, 6? He's
I
little.
think they said the dad says 7 later in the movie.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And his mom gives him this little necklace to help find his way home. Then flash to modern day San Francisco. And we don't really learn much about his full backstory until later. So he's working as a valet.
I am glad that we finally have an MCU movie that is not sponsored by Audi. Finally. It's
It's
only
a
taken
BMW.
it's only taken 12 years or 14 years because I think Iron Man 1 started in '08.
Yes, it did.
So it took 14 years to get a MCU movie that was not sponsored by Audi.
I will say
But we still got BMW.
I love Aquafina's character. I really relate to her in a lot of ways.
Did you know that she has a Comedy Central like stand-up
Yeah,
show? Did you know she was also a rapper?
yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah.
I learned that from her wiki.
I really relate to her in a lot of ways, in ways I probably will never disclose, but um, just 'cause it's kind of embarrassing. But I really admire her in a lot of ways and relate to her in a lot of ways, and I feel like a lot of people in maybe like your early to mid 20s probably could as
Yeah,
well.
because she doesn't know what
I
she
mean, I'm
doesn't
in my
know.
late 20s and
Yeah,
I still
but
really,
she doesn't know what she wants to do. There's an excellent quote later in the
we'll
movie.
go over it.
I mean, it is such of a great quote.
But like all of their friends are like and her mom are like criticizing her for
Or
like
in him.
yeah, for being
Just like
irresponsible, like dead end jobs, like
where
what are
it
you?
doesn't want to amount to anything in life.
Yeah,
Or they're just skating by. They're doing the bare minimum.
which frankly I feel like is
Most people, like
in that age group. I feel
most
like
20-year-olds will scrape by, kind of like well, we were talking like kind of like what Kate Bishop's mom was talking about.
yeah,
Teenagers feel like they're indestructible.
yeah,
They're
like I think that, but also I think that at that age you're just making the amount of money you need to live on.
not
You're
thinking
not
about the
really
future.
yeah, you're not thinking about house payments. You're not thinking about you're just trying to get your groceries at the end of
Go to
the
point
week.
A to point B.
Yeah. You're just trying to pay the rent. Everything
Hmm.
else is gravy at that point.
Yeah. And even
Um
Aquafina's character didn't have to pay rent. Katie didn't have to pay rent. She lived with her mom.
yeah, but it's like it's just one of those things like you just gotta like and I think a lot of people could like relate to that
Yeah.
aspect of things. Because like when you're just like breaking even, like you kind of can coast.
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked that. And they're basically like, we've got the early shift tomorrow. We could go to sleep.
And then they're
And
just
then they go to karaoke and they sing Disney songs. They sing A Whole New World.
part of Whole New World. They sing Hotel
That was
California.
at the end.
Oh, what else did they sing? They sang three different songs,
Can't remember.
but it was like Disney songs.
So then they get on the bus to go to work the next morning and
Yes,
they meet up with a bunch of guys
ninjas.
and
We
they
s-
try to steal his pendant.
we finally see the first ninjas of the MCU.
This
Actually, does Doctor Strange ones count as ninjas?
they're wizards.
So do we have the big four now? You know how we had the three?
Was it wizards, aliens, monsters? Is it monsters?
Ye- Maybe. And now do we have what was it? Loki?
No, it
No,
was
what was it?
Falcon.
It was Falcon. Yeah, it was Falcon.
This scene on the bus was so cool. Like, just the fight scene was really cool, but also just the visuals in the scene. And I know I criticized Black Widow last week about like the lack of like really interesting visuals. This movie made up for it
Hmm.
for sure. Um,
Aliens, androids, or wizards. So now big
so
four. Ninja,
Thanos,
Tron,
Ultron, Doctor Strange, wizards,
yes,
and now ninjas.
and now ninjas. Which we'll get ninjas again in Daredevil's TV show that comes out, I think, in 2024. Because he's getting like a 20 episode TV show,
Yeah.
which I am absolutely looking forward to.
How cool was this bus scene?
It was so cool. But you know me, I love the close knit fight scenes where
Yes.
there's not a whole. We haven't had one in a long time.
And I loved, you know how much I love tracking shots? I
Hmm.
talk about them all the freaking time on this
But
podcast. This scene had so many of them that were
yes,
like so cool. It's hard to explain. Like I'm not just go watch the movie. Um, but it's so cool. Like some of the visuals, some of the camera work in this
hmm
scene, the way that the camera like passed through people, the way that it like past the windows, uh,
one of my favorite characters of the movie is in this scene.
was Razor Fist.
No, the dude filming.
Oh, the live streamer.
Yes, the live streamer. Oh my
The
gosh.
guy was so of today. I feel like that's not gonna age very well.
That's so funny though. Where he was just recording. He's like, "You got this, dude." And then Razor Fist comes out with the blade. He's like, I'm sorry, you don't got this.
I love how it was just like, oh,
Oh.
he doesn't have a hand. And then it's like, I wish you could have seen my reaction. I was like, and then I was like, oh.
I think I said, like, he's gonna beat him with, like, a metal plate, and then a knife comes out. This fight scene, though, with Shang-Chi just, like, twisting around on the poles in the bus and stuff, and there's not a lot of room on a bus.
No. And I really love how coordinate so basically the bus is like breaking in half because there's that like bendy part on
Um,
a city bus.
Razorface or Razor Fist. I
Razor
almost
face.
I
Isn't
got
that the guy from
That's
Guardians?
Taserface, who's a Starkian. I told you that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a Starkian in the comics. No, so Razor Fist, I don't even know if that's his real name. That's just what was on the side of his car. He has the blade, and like Shang-Chi like rotates around him with it, and it cuts that rubber thing.
Yeah, and he basically like he times he pulls the little string thing
At a certain time where the bus like shatters in half.
and then like flings Razorface off.
Or in the bus.
Razor fist.
Razor Fist, that
I
part of
love
the
how he's like,
bus.
everybody at the front of the
Bus!
bus.
And he's like, on my signal. What's our signal? Dink! Oh, hard right. And
They
just,
basically steal his pendant.
yes. Which I want to rewatch to see when that happened.
Oh, there's a very distinct shot of Razorfist taking
Just
it.
grabbing it? Okay.
Um,
I might have just missed that. With everything else that was going on in that scene.
yes.
And the brake line got shattered. And so she had to use a trash truck and destroyed so many fancy cars.
Can you imagine you have to like run out to your car for something, like you're at work or like you're like out shopping or something, you have to run back to your car for something and then you come out and you're like,
Oh, no.
it's gonna cost me so much in insurance.
What would you even tell your insurance company? Like a bus ran over my car, fighting some dude with a blade on his hand? But at that point, wouldn't insurance have gone up anyway? With the amount of aliens that visit now?
We go back to Shang-Chi's apartment
Or
and
it's not a part, it's like he lives in someone's garage.
and he
Is
tells Aquafina about
we're not even
he
saying
her name is
Katie.
Katie. Um he tells her about his sister and how he needs to go to Macau.
She's like, you have a sister? Like, this dude did not tell his best friend anything for the last 10 years.
Well, because he moved when he was 15, he moved to the States.
Or moved. Or no, it was
He is
14. He was 14.
so like
Because he was training for 7 years.
yeah.
And his mom died when he was 7. So he's 24.
Okay, I'm sorry. Simu Liu does not look 24.
I think he's like 30.
He looks like 35. So Katie says you can explain it on the plane, which that's a ride or die right there. Like I'm going
He's
with you through hell or high water.
he's 33. He's in the movie Barbie?
Okay, I am so excited for that movie with Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. So then, while they're on the plane, he explains to her
The
the
whole
ruthless training that he went through as a
and the
translator.
dad's history and everything. And she's like, whoa. And then the flight attendant cut in. Like, vegetarian or beef? Vegetarian. Oh, we're out of vegetarian then. Beef.
What about you?
Beef, since that's the only option? Like, that's just a weird. I get that there was, like, the comedy relief, like, cut in, which
Yeah.
was funny.
He basically tells her that he has decided to do something. He has decided to go kill somebody.
Yes. And he couldn't.
Um,
And so he ran because he didn't want to go back home.
and then they arrive in Macau and they learn that the fight on the bus went viral. And we arrive at the address
That's
that the sister was supposedly sending him to. And it's this like under
awesome fight club.
what do we see?
We see, woo, an abomination, which builds up for She-Hulk.
Did you want to talk about that thing you noticed?
So, I don't know if I'm 100% correct, because A, I knew nothing of this movie going in. Usually with Marvel movies, I have a general idea. I had no idea for this movie. There's a person in a fight room that looked like they had Extremis. And if you remember, Extremis was in Iron Man 3.
2?
3. That was the last Iron Man. Standalone Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that Pepper Potts got the Extremis.
I guess that makes sense because Trevor's in this too.
But that's the thing. Extremis was in 2014?
Mhm.
2013 was Extremis? Yeah, Christmas time. It was Christmas of 12. Because Iron
Mhm.
Man 3 was 6 months after the first Avengers.
Mhm.
But everyone from the Extremists blew up because they didn't have that chemical anymore. They didn't have the repair.
I don't
But
know.
it looked like the Extremist because his body was like glowing the same color orange everywhere on him, which reminded me of the Extremist, as if you remember from when Pepper got it in her,
Mhm.
how she was glowing like orange was like flowing through her.
Yes. So he's looking for his sister and he's asking everybody where she is and nobody will tell him. And
Like maybe after the fight, I'll help you find
he
who
has
you're
to
looking
fight
for.
his sister. And we get this in during all of his flashback that he's telling Aquafina on the plane. Um, he basically the montage alludes to the fact that like the sister was never allowed to train
Hmm.
because girls aren't allowed to do boy
Now
things.
he had female people or assassins, but she couldn't train with the boys, so she trained by herself. She's a lot better than them. And with her making the Fight Club when she was 16
Yeah,
is also good for her.
she beats him.
Badly, but he also doesn't want to fight his sister. But
But
she
I also
also,
think that he didn't fully. I think that later, like he learns how to kind of he learns his powers a little bit more. Not powers. He learns his fighting style a little bit
but
better.
that's the thing. When he left the I'm just going to call it a compound.
Yeah, I call it a compound in my
When he
notes.
left the compound, he quit fighting. So it was probably, if he continued, he would have beaten her like to a pulp. This whole scene is so cool with just all the other fights around, seeing Wu, seeing the Abomination, which we haven't seen since Incredible Hulk, which I think that was a cool touch to see him.
Hmm.
Which and She-Hulk, the show's mainly about it. She-Hulk is a lawyer, and for a good chunk of the show, she's defending him.
I didn't think that that's where that what that show was about.
She's a lawyer.
No, I knew that.
Lawyer by day, Hulk by night.
The sister, who I believe her name is Xiaoling. My Chinese is non-existent, so I apologize for the
I think it
pronunciation.
was Shao.
I think it's Xiaoling. It's Xioling. I think that's how you say it is Xiaoling.
We can say Shang-Chi's sister.
So we basically find out that she wasn't the one that sent the postcard.
Nope.
It was a lure.
By the dead.
And then there's this fight
And
scene.
then ninjas attack. And oh my gosh, this fight scene is so cool.
I think this fight scene on the outside of the building is nausea-inducing.
It is so
I
cool.
could not handle watching this movie in an IMAX or in a 3D.
It is
I'd
so
throw up.
it's so cool. This entire scene is so cool with them fighting on like a 2 foot like walkway. Like with ninjas everywhere and just the entire scene is so cool. This entire movie is amazing.
This movie's great.
Like, in my opinion, Spider-Man is still above Shang-Chi, but that's because I grew up loving Spider-Man.
Yeah,
And I have very little knowledge of Shang-Chi. Like,
but
at
this
all.
is up near the top for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that takes a lot for you.
Like, it's still not for me, it's still not as good as Ant-Man or Ragnarok,
Hmm.
but just because I love
But also
both those
you have a
movies.
lot of nostalgia for both of those movies.
Yes.
So that's different.
Like Ant-Man, I loved reading Ant-Man comics growing up. I loved reading Thor comics growing up. I loved reading Spider-Man comics growing up. But this is up there. I'd say this is in my top 5.
Yeah, I would probably say that too. I'm not sure where so he tries to stab Ninja Dude, the dude with like the white face and the ponytail.
Yeah, the one that was pretty much training him
Yeah.
when he was a kid. And they fight. which, you know me, I love the cool, like, knife moves.
It's a very, like, Arya Stark stabs the Night King.
Yeah, no, more of like, Bucky, like, how he would, like, drop the knife, re-grab it
What were
to
we
fight.
watching wasn't it Marvel that we were watching recently where they did something similar?
It was Taskmaster.
Yeah, it was Taskmaster, that's what it was.
It was Taskmaster, but you know me, I love the weird, like, where they do the cool, like, dropping of the knife, re-grabbing the knife, and, like, stab.
Well, that's literally what Arya Stark does. She, like,
Yeah.
drops the dagger and then she grabs it and
Like,
stabs the Night
midair
King.
or on the ground?
No, she, like, so they drop it up here and then she drops it, like, close to the Night King's belly and stabs him in the belly.
Mm,
And it's a Valyrian steel knife,
yeah,
so it kills it.
yeah. But, like,
Sorry to spoil the end of Game of Thrones for you.
that was 3 years ago? 2 years ago? I think it was
If
2 years
you're
ago.
currently watching Game of Thrones for the first time and don't know how it ends, sorry about it. The last season sucks.
Yeah.
That's not an unpopular opinion. That's actually quite the popular opinion.
That's the main opinion.
That scene is really fun though. As weird as it is, it's a fun shot.
Like, but, you know, I like the cool, intricate fight scenes. Like, the only other fight scene that I can think of, besides the Spider-Man one, because that's still my favorite fight scene, where it was the 3 Spider-Mans versus all the villains on the statue. That's still my favorite fight scene of all time, but my
I love the colors in that scene with the copper and the sunshine and like oh my
yes.
god.
But
Cinematography wise it's insane.
my other one is Captain America, Thor, Iron Man fighting Thanos.
Mhm.
Like, all 3 of them get beaten to a pulp.
You like the Civil War scene too.
The
Cap versus Tony.
Yeah, with Bucky,
Well that
where
the
we get
one
the comic book shot.
yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
That's
that.
still a cool one, but it's not one of my favorites. I like the ones where they will do the fight scenes where it's not so much like a comic book recreation, but it's you can feel the tension. Like, you can feel the tension building.
Well, and I think the tension really picks up when he's about to stab the ninja guy. I
Yeah.
don't know the guy's name, sorry.
I don't think they ever said his name.
And the
But,
dad comes in and stops him.
like, with the rings, like, grabs it and, like, pulls him back. Like, you can feel how much tension if you can feel the tension, you know it's a great fight scene.
I felt the tension during that scaffolding scene.
Yes.
Because
Where
like the stick breaks and Katie is like hanging there and
yeah,
then Xiaoling like catches her.
yeah, or, like, grabs her and, like,
Hmm.
throws her in. But you can if you can feel the tension, you know it's a great fight scene, and then there's not that many where you feel the tension.
Well, I think also, especially in the early days, I knew that like Iron Man was gonna make it. I knew Captain America was gonna
Yeah,
make it. I knew like I obviously because there's many, many, many other
yeah.
movies. But
But at this point going forward, you don't know who's gonna live and who's gonna die.
so it's like it's very easy to build the tension.
Yes. But remember, back when the movies first came out, you didn't know what was going to come next. You had no idea.
Hmm.
Like, you knew what the next movie was going to be, but you didn't know what was going to happen.
Like I really I imagine back in the day those little like Iron Man will return or
Those are
whatever.
literally that and the ending credits were the only things that gave us ideas of what was going to be in the next movie. And sometimes it was some ending credits were was for several movies later
Yeah.
where we had no
Well, I've said
idea.
it before. I love the way that Marvel plants seeds that doesn't grow into a tree for several years.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We know from this point on, we know what's going to happen. We know how this phase ends, which I like, but we don't know the story to get there. Like, we know point B or we know point D, but we don't know point B and C.
Yeah.
Like, which I really like,
Yep. So they fly to the dad's compound,
not willingly.
and we basically learn that the sister, the Xiaoling, built this fighting ring
At
at 16.
like that's impressive because she ran away from home and she wanted a group that could be better than her dad's. I'm like, okay, you do you. Like,
Yeah.
if you can make a group better than your dad's 1,000-year-old group.
And we have this like awkward as hell dinner scene with the dad. And he's basically telling them about how that he's Genghis Khan and like all of these other like ancient
Rulers and leaders and
and the Mandarin, he's the Mandarin.
yes. Or no, he was talking about he hinted at Iron Man 3 because this American guy came here to try to convince me to be a terrorist. He said no, and so he hired some British actor to play me, and his name was the Mandarin. He named his terrorist off of a Chinese dish. I'm like, great, Iron Man 3, which I thought that was funny.
And then he tells us that the mom is trapped
Yes.
and at
Behind a
Talo.
behind a door in Talo, which I'm like, is she though? Or are you just
It
hearing
does
things for
feel really delusional. Um, it reminded me of the way that the dad explains this, like, and especially later where they're talking about like it hears the heart's truest desire or whatever. It gave me very Mira said
hmm
energy.
But
Um,
I mean, grief does things to you.
oh, for sure. I'm not saying that like he is obviously the rings are kind of a factor in this and his grief is a factor in this and they're kind of playing it reminds me a lot of Mayor of Erised and then also the way that the Horcruxes
Yeah, but
kind of play onto like your insecurities and
I
things.
don't think it was the rings talking to him. I think it was whatever was behind the door got enough power to talk and was just attracted to the most powerful object, which were the 10 rings. So I don't think it was the 10 rings talking to him. I think it was just that being was drawn to its power. Because for a while, the strongest things were the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, but those are long gone.
Those are destroyed. I mean, the TVA has a ton of them.
Yeah, they should really hit up the TVA.
Shoot, imagine if Thanos found the TVA.
Honestly, Thanos could have like made his job a whole lot
Oh my
easier.
gosh, he could have had 2 Infinity Gauntlets.
So this scene is quite possibly my favorite scene in this entire movie.
Yes, graphically, it is gorgeous.
And he takes the little
Jade,
necklaces, the little pendants, and he puts them. He makes like the eyes of the dragon,
yeah,
and it's all of this water rushes out, and then it not freezes. It like stops midair.
and it goes down and creates a map.
This is quite possibly my favorite scene in this entire movie. I think visually it's insane.
Like, it's just amazing.
Like kudos to the visual effects department in this movie.
They're getting really, really good.
I will forever be um so in awe of professional editors. So I get really bad vibes from the dad.
I mean, the dad's also like a conqueror. He's evil, which we learn from the history lesson from the mom.
Well, at this point, I just get I was getting like maybe like he was using these like visions of the mom as like a manipulative tactic.
But then we heard him hearing the mom, or we saw him hearing the mom.
Yeah.
I thought the sister was going to turn, like be a double agent.
I thought she was gonna try to sacrifice herself.
That's what I thought too. But at first, I thought she was going to like double cross him at some point.
Like you think that like she drank the Kool-Aid?
Yes.
Or like maybe she did send the postcard, but it was specifically to lure him.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Because I mean, anytime there's been like a helper person that like came out of nowhere, usually has betrayed them.
Hmm.
Like will betray them.
And I also really so basically what the dad thinks is that Talo, the villagers did not like him, and so that they as punishment took the mom and like locked her behind a door
Yes.
as punishment for her leaving them.
Like, no, it's just they didn't want him there.
And he wants to burn Talo to the ground.
If he can't get to the door. If they won't let him free her, then he's just going to burn it to the ground.
And I think Shang-Chi, he saw through all the BS like immediately.
Yes, because he also doesn't like his dad.
Yeah, but I think that's on abuse.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we saw how he was trained, and he was trained for 7 years to be a ninja. And
I think he just had um enough
drinking the Kool-Aid.
no, he had enough practice um with how his dad is, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. He's just like, I I've long since not like I don't need this in my
Yeah.
life, and I'm not going to deal with this.
Yes.
And then we go down. They basically get put down
Dungeon.
in the dungeon, and we see Trevor.
Which I don't know how I feel about seeing Trevor.
We do beat my favorite character in this entire movie.
You love the weird animal things.
I love Morris so much.
You like the weird animal
Does he
things.
have a face?
No.
He's sensitive about that.
No.
So
His face looks like a butt. Well,
he's so
he's
cute.
sensitive about that. And then, like, the sister goes off while they're talking. And, like, this
No,
guy.
we learn that Morris can see. He can send them.
Yeah. Or first, Trevor freaks out. Or they freak out. Like, what's that? And he's like, you can see him? I thought I've been hallucinating this entire time. Trevor, buddy. I mean, you need help mentally? Because A, you were portrayed to be a terrorist in Iron Man 3. Then you were sent to
Maybe you
jail.
need some therapy.
He was sent to jail. He was broken out by the dad. And the dad was going to kill him for acting like him. And he just broke out and started doing Macbeth. And now he is their jester. Where once a week he performs Macbeth. Trevor, buddy.
Double, double, toilet trouble. Fire burn and cauldron bubble.
What? I
It's from Macbeth.
don't think I've actually ever seen it.
I've never seen it either. The
Or
only
read the
reason I
book.
know that that quote exists is because in the third Harry Potter movie, they say the frog choir sings it.
Oh.
That's the only
That's
reason.
where I know it from. I was like, that sounds familiar.
It's at the beginning of the movie when they get to Hogwarts.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Something wicked this way comes.
Yeah. I just know a Macbeth. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Hamlet. Never mind.
That's to be or not to be. Is that what you were thinking?
I was thinking about the dude holding up the skull.
Yeah, that's Hamlet.
Yeah. Or the only Macbeth that I know. So, this is from a cartoon called Jimmy Neutron. And I think they did Macbeth in the show.
They also reference Macbeth in
Where they did a futuristic Macbeth
I
in the
believe
show.
I believe they reference Macbeth in Hercules, the Disney movie. The three fates witches. There's a reference to three witches in Macbeth.
No, that's just Greek mythology. It's three the three sisters of fate.
No, but I'm pretty sure that they
Maybe.
also, did you know that it is bad luck to say the word Macbeth in a theater?
Yeah, because anytime any theaters try to do Macbeth, like a ton of bad stuff happens.
I think so. It's similar to
Isn't it like a cursed play?
yeah, it's similar to saying you don't tell somebody good luck when
Yeah.
they're in a
What
production.
was that? You were
You
telling
say
me
red
about
carpet.
a Broadway show or play that was
It's
cursed. What was it?
Rebecca,
That's right.
based on the Hitchcock movie.
Yes.
And it only made it to previews and a
Ooh.
bunch of bad stuff happened. Seriously, if you're into like theater history, look it up. It's really fascinating.
If you want us to cover Hitchcock films,
Matthew's a big Hitchcock buff.
I love Hitchcock films.
Then we find out that the sister broke out using the tunnels.
Yes. And she just like beats down a wall. And she's like, "Are you guys coming?" And they're like, "How did you know that was there?" Like, "That's how I broke out was through time." It's like, "Oh."
And they steal Razor Fist's
They
car.
stole the most showy car out there. Like, you couldn't steal, like, I don't know, something cooler or faster? You had to steal a car that was spray painted Taser Fist? Or Razor Fist?
Taserface, Razor Fist, that's their ship name is Taser, or is Razor Face.
Or is it
Or is it Taser Fist?
Taser Fist? I like Taser Fist.
It's if Taserface and Razor Fist like
Had a movie
they got together, it was like a buddy cop, it would be called Taser Fist.
coming this summer. Taser Fist. One is from the planet called Stark, and the other has a sword for an arm.
So then we get to the maze.
Yes.
And Morris leads them through.
We're just waiting and waiting and waiting. Then Morris says, go. Or he doesn't say go. Trevor says go, because Trevor can apparently speak Morris, or whatever race creature he is. He can speak it somehow. He's like, okay, take it sharp right in 3 seconds. And stay in the bubble. Stay in the bubble. Stay in the bubble.
Stay in the pocket.
Stay in the pocket. Stay in the pocket. Like, please say something else, Trevor.
I love the gate to Talo is this waterfall. Yes. I love this shot.
Just like the water like freezing and like, why is everything magical in the MCU? Circles.
Yeah. And then we see all of the creatures, which Newt Scamander would have a field day in this place. They were very Newt Scamander's case-esque. Like that one scene in the first Fantastic Beasts movie, we don't talk about the other two. I don't want to talk about it. I love that scene where he and Jacob are walking through the case for the first time.
Mm.
And it's like just seeing all the different creatures for the first time. It's just beautiful. Yeah. It also kind of reminded me of that little bird thing in the void in Loki. Little peacock bird thing with the ball for a head.
Yeah. But all those creatures are from Chinese mythology. Like,
no, I totally get it. That's just where that's where my brain was
and
going.
then one of them, for the Pokemon fans out there, which is probably not that many.
Imagine a lot of people.
There's a creature that looks like Ninetales, which I know that Ninetales is based off of that Chinese creature. I do not know its name off the top of my head.
It's based on the kitsune fox of Japanese folklore.
Yes, that's right. And then we saw do not remember what they're called, the giant, like, golden looking big lion bear things.
See, again, bringing it back to Fantastic Beasts, there's a creature called a Zulu, I think, or Zowu.
That may be it.
And I think I think it's the second one. Again, I don't want to talk about it, but he tames it in that one. Yeah, and that's what they put the armor on the end at the end.
It didn't look like armor, it just looked like Chinese lettering.
No, it was the same armor that they make the weapons out of. It was that same material.
But it looked like it was just like a harness to ride on.
I don't know. So they basically they make the armor out of dragon scales.
Yes. The Great Protector gave them the scales for the weapons and everything. And we get another cool fighting montage. And then we get my favorite quote of the movie.
You aim at nothing, you'll hit nothing.
Which, that is a great quote.
It kind of boils down to you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. But I mean, that sounds a lot better than...
What is that, a Wayne Gretzky quote?
I don't know.
Is he hockey?
Yes, Wayne Gretzky is hockey.
It feels kind of trite a little bit. And I don't think, to a person that is like Katie, is not using her full potential, I think it doesn't really mean anything.
No, but that is sort of what got her to start doing the archery and all of that there.
No, but I'm saying like it doesn't. I understand where you're pulling significance from, but like I feel like if you were to say that to like a random person, they'd be like, okay, that doesn't really help me."
But that does, I mean, but it's just a great quote.
So we basically we meet the aunt.
Which,
we never learn her name, to my knowledge, at least.
No,
And she basically tells us the story about the dweller and the soul suckers, and she shows us this beautifully intricate like wooden wall with all of the characters on it and
her
stuff.
name is Ying Nan.
Ying Nan?
He says it, or it's when the Mandarin comes and they're talking.
Okay.
But if you like the movie,
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Is
yes,
that what that movie's called?
yes, she's in it along with their other friend that they talked to at the beginning.
Oh, the friend that they're out to dinner with?
Yes, they're both in it. And if I want us to cover everything everywhere all at once. I want to cover that movie. I just want to know what you think.
I know nothing about it other than the fact that it happens in one building. He watched it on a plane on the way back from Portland when we were there in October.
And I
And he the entire time was just like, this movie is so weird. So the mom basically sets aside outfits
or
for,
made two outfits for them.
yeah, and it's made out of dragon scales.
But when
And
did the mom make them?
she probably had them made. Like to set aside for when they're adults,
Maybe,
when they come
yeah.
back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I love about this is that everybody, no matter your gender or your age or any of it, learns equally, and you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of you're able to learn whatever you want to learn, which I
Yeah.
love. And it's such in contrast to the dad's compound.
I would love to like professionally learn how to use a bow staff. And then whatever weapon that's called, the one with the rope with the blade attached to it with like the hardened like ball on the end of it.
That the sister uses.
Yes, I would love to learn that, but I would feel like I would cut myself to ribbons. But I mean, that would have been cool to learn when I was younger doing taekwondo. That would have been cool to learn.
You were nearly a black belt, weren't you?
Yes. My sister and she was a little bit further than I was with
Hmm.
it. I think she was 3 or 4 months further than I was towards it.
So I love this scene with him and the aunt that she's basically teaching him how to fight. And I love this moment.
She's teaching him to fight kind of like how the mom
I
fought.
love this moment between them where he is the whole time is fighting with closed fists.
Yeah.
And she goes and opens his hand up.
And then he can control the air.
And I love that it's I don't know if this is entirely what they were going for, but it gave me some symbolism, I feel like, that he was so closed off and she opened him up.
Because that's the thing, he was trying to fight like the dad. He was trying to mimic his mom's and dad's fighting style. When
He needed to kind of like channel his
he
own.
needed to make his own.
Yeah. I think he does end up blending a lot of
I think
things.
that's what he does. He takes the fighting style of the dad with when he's using the rings plus the mom's fighting style. Which I mean makes sense. He is a blend of the two of them.
I love this scene though because it's so like a little bit what we were talking about before. It's almost like a little dance.
Yes.
It reminds me of like if you've ever seen like modern or interpretive dance between like two people where the way that they move around each other and flow around each other
Yeah.
is like so it's almost like a little tango.
That essentially that's what it is. It's just a fighting version of tango.
Uh,
Which I'm going to show you the Dance of the Dragons just so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about.
isn't Dance of the Dragons a Game of Thrones thing? We learn that the mom was murdered by a bunch of guys coming to repay a debt or to collect a debt rather.
To collect the blood debt. The
The
mom
dad
beats up a lot of them.
the dad had like set aside his rings
He gave up the rings.
and he puts them back on and he beats the crap out of them for and then what bothers me is he blames a 7-year-old for his mother being murdered.
Yeah, like you did there and did nothing to help.
He was 7
The mom took out a lot of people. But
by herself.
but the dad gave it up because he found true love.
Yeah.
He wanted to have a family. So the dad gave up his greatest weapon to grow old. I mean, imagine giving something up for someone and then they getting murdered.
We learn that Shang-Chi did go off and kill the guy that
Yeah.
he was supposed to
But he
kill.
was ashamed of himself. That he was ashamed of what his mom would think of him. Because he killed his mom's killer. Is it Batman philosophy where he doesn't kill people because if you kill someone you still have a killer out there? But if a killer kills 3 people, killing that's still removing 2 killers, right?
And then the dad arrives in Talo And the battle commences.
Which is cool because it's red versus blue, which in my head was Scorpion versus Sub-Zero in my head. Because I love Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, Scorpion is more yellow, but he also has fire powers, so I'm saying red, and Sub-Zero wears blue and black, but he has ice powers. Mortal Kombat is my favorite game franchise, one of my favorite movies of all time. And I'm talking about the old Mortal Kombat movies. The really bad CGI one.
Shang-Chi goes after his dad, and the dad blasts him into the water.
Yes.
To get to the gates.
Like, Shang-Chi should be dead, essentially.
He goes to the gate, and the Soul Eaters are being released.
Yes, or the Soul Collectors.
They remind me of Grindylows from Harry Potter.
They remind me of, like, flying squids. Like, baddie squids.
Like, that's why I say Grindylows, because they're a
I
little...
don't remember what a Grindylow looks like.
They're in the Black Lake. They're these little, like, demon bodies with, like, squid legs. They have, like, really sharp fingernails and really sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And these reminded me of Grindylows, but with wings.
It looked like a bat and a squid merged into one. Which...
That sounds terrifying. But also, like, some Dementor stuff as well, because they suck souls.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. These creatures are from the dark dimension. What's the other thing that's in the dark dimension?
Dormammu.
So,
Dormammu, I couldn't make a bargain.
what else is in there? What other nightmarish creatures are in the dark dimension?
And then we learned that the power that the Ten Rings has is powerless against these soul suckers. So basically, they have to join forces.
Or the weapons that the Ten Ring ninjas have.
Mm-hmm.
The lightning weapons are useless.
They have to join forces, and Razor Fist changes out his blade for like the dragon blade.
Which was so cool because he took out the other one, put the other one in. I'm like, that is cool. That was interesting. I like that little touch.
And while Shang-Chi is like under the water, frankly he should have drowned in that time, but whatever. He's our hero, so we gotta root for him.
Yeah.
But he basically meets the Great Protector, which is this big water dragon.
Yes.
And they fly out of the water together.
To where the dad is. Where the dad is hearing the mom.
And we get a quick little thing of Trevor and Morris playing dead. I love these movies for balancing the tension and the
With
comedy.
a slight comedy relief.
And then we're
Just
like, okay, back to the tension now.
I love that they brought in a lot of like two older villains from the MCU into here without them being in like a big role. Abomination and Trevor.
Got it. Okay, yeah. Like a cameo.
Yeah, like a slight cameo. Without like they brought in two.
They didn't alter the course of the...
No, I mean Trevor
I
kind
get
of did.
kinda.
That's what I'm calling the creature, Morris. I don't know the actual race of it. They never said the
Well,
race.
that's what they call him, is Morris.
No, that's what Trevor calls him.
Yeah. During their fight, Shang-Chi takes all of the rings.
No, so the dad and him are fighting. He does like the mom's ability and takes 5 of them that he throws.
It's called a Dijang?
DJing.
Yeah, it's called a Dijang?
I'm calling it the Morris. That's easier for me to say. It's the Morris creature.
Okay, so you're talking about Shang-Chi taking
Yeah,
the
so
rings.
the dad and him are fighting. Shang-Chi takes 10 of the rings that the dad throws at him, and they turn orange. And the dad is shocked because no one else has been able to control the rings besides him.
He is a descendant of this man, so...
But I don't think that really matters because the dad never taught him how to control the rings. So the rings amplify your attack. If you had 5 rings on, your hit would be 5 times stronger. If you had all 10 on one hand, your punch would be 10 times stronger. So the rings amplify your ability. But the rings can go on anything. So like your legs for kicking or whatever. But in the comics, in some of the comic arcs, just from about this is more about the Mandarin, not so much Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
They were actual rings in some arcs. Like actual rings that had different, like, abilities: fire, water, lightning, earth, etc. Telekinesis, mind control, things like that. They would do, not an actual, like, power band type thing, more like actual rings, if that makes sense. I
Yes.
think I have a Mandarin comic somewhere. I have to go through my comic totes. I just have to.
So then the dweller breaks free.
And it is this squid dragon. Is the only way to describe it. Imagine a giant dragon, but with tentacles.
With the powers of a Dementor.
Yes.
The soul that they suck out is like colorful.
Yes.
It's like blues and
Which
pinks.
I have heard, like, in different mythologies, souls are very similar to that. Like in Greek and Roman and a lot of African mythologies, the soul is more of like a rainbow.
And then the dad sacrifices himself. He like throws down all the rings.
To Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi uses them slightly differently than the dad did. The dad would use them more, like, attacktively, while Shang-Chi uses them more defensively, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And more for, like his sister was about to fall off the dragon with him, and he used the rings to, like, grab onto the dragon better and the sister better. Instead of using them to just attack, he would use them to try to protect.
And then Zhaoling rides in on the protector, and Katie then has to aim for the throat because he's basically the dweller has been sucking all of the souls of all the dead folks.
Yes. Or
And
not the dead folks, the soul suckers were stealing the souls from them.
yes, that's what I meant. He was absorbing.
And then they die after that.
Um, so she has to aim for the throat, and then the what is his name? The commander dude.
Yes.
He gets killed.
Yes, right before she's about to aim and she's freaking out and she just remembers to breathe and
Hmm.
aims and hits the dragon in the throat and is cheering, but nothing really happened.
And I couldn't figure out what happened. Did Shang-Chi
He
like
threw the rings down. So
thought he did?
he got thrown up in the air. He shot the rings down into the
It was
darkness dragon
yeah,
while he was spinning the rings in
the
him.
dweller.
The dweller, while spinning the rings in him, getting more power,
This explosion was so cool.
and just blew him away and got the rings. And I was thinking, help me, I am falling. I am falling. I need my rings back. This movie visually was so cool.
This explosion was awesome. This whole fight sequence was so awesome.
Yes.
And then they have a little lantern ceremony to dedicate to whoever
To
they
honor the
lost,
dead.
which I feel like is kind of overarching on many, many cultures that do this.
Yes. So in Norse mythology, they do lanterns, and a lot of mythologies still do lanterns type things. Like in Norse mythology, instead of a lantern, they, like in Asgard, for example,
Hmm.
which we saw in Thor Dark World. Odin pushed Freya in a boat off the.
It's like a Viking funeral.
Yes, that's essentially, it's the same thing. Vikings don't really do the whole lanterns thing. In Chinese cultures, they do the lantern. In some Chinese cultures, they'll do lanterns on the water, and then there's some that will do kind of like what they did in Tangled.
To float them up in the sky.
Yes, it just depends on the region, I believe.
Yeah. And then this whole story is being told to their friends.
And their friends don't believe them, and then we get Wong.
And Wong comes into the restaurant, like making his little circle, and he's like, Shang-Chi?
Gee, Katie, we need your help.
And he's like, me?
Me? Or Song-Chi, where are you?
I'm
Here?
here.
Come on, come on, we need to talk. He's like, you too, Katie. Okay, I'll Venmo you later. Bye. And then end of the movie,
And then we get an end credit scene.
which is literally the next scene, which I like.
Yeah, that's rare, I feel like.
But they're building up. Captain Marvel, Bruce Banner, and Wong are there with Shang-Chi and Katie, of course,
Mhm.
talking about the Ten Rings, and that the Ten Rings are a beacon. Bruce says it's older than 1,000 years, because that's when the dad found them, was 1,000 years ago.
Mhm.
They're older than that. They ask if it's alien, Captain Marvel says no. It's not Chitauri, and they don't know how old they are.
They're emitting some kind of beacon
to somewhere, and they don't know where.
And then Wong goes, "You're needed,
destined for something greater than
and
you,
you guys should rest up because there's something big about to happen." And they were like, "We could do that."
or
And then they go sing Hotel California.
California.
And that's the end of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Which that's the thing. Even with it, when Shang-Chi used it, Carmitage shook when Shang-Chi used the Ten Rings. So, where are the Ten Rings from?
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe.
So,
Eventually? Maybe.
unfortunately, next week is going to be the Eternals.
Yes. So,
So there are 2 movies in this entire lineup that Matthew has been dreading. One of those was Captain Marvel, and the other one was Eternals. And I have very low hopes for this movie.
It's not terrible, but it's not good. So, still tune in for next week for Eternal if you haven't.
We might have to roast it.
We probably will roast it, kind of like what we did with the first Thor and Captain Marvel. But in my own opinion, I don't like how they explained that they didn't help with Thanos. I don't like that. I don't like the reasoning.
Is it going to be a Game of Thrones reunion? Or is it just Kit Harington and, what's his face? Robb Stark.
It's just the 2 of them, but they don't ever... I don't think that... they may have 1 scene together. 1 or 2 scenes together.
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to Eternals, not gonna lie. I haven't heard a single thing that is positive about that movie. Join us next week for the Eternals.
Catch you guys next week. Bye.
If you would like to send us any feedback or any messages, you can follow us over on Instagram at thefanclub_podcast or on Twitter at fanclub_podcast. Or you can discuss each episode with us over on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/thefanclubpodcast. And make sure that you tune in every Marvel Monday.